Hello again to another Agakala React, and today we're watching Dune 2 is a wake-up call for Hollywood from Captain Midnight. And I'm pretty sure I've never seen anything from Captain Midnight. Maybe I did. Something rings a bell, but I definitely want to watch something about Dune 2 because I watched it and I loved it. It's a really good movie. The first part was very good too. And I definitely recommend to every sci-fi and fantasy fan to watch. So let's just go and watch. Why is it a wake-up call to Hollywood? Because the movie is actually really well done.
Captain Midnight.
This video is brought to you by Brilliant. I loved Dune Part 2. And the more distance I get from it, the more that feeling has just cemented. It's a fantastic character piece, while at the same time, the scale of the thing is just massive in scope. Honestly, it was an almost overwhelming experience in the theater, with a rich, textured, and yes, incredibly loud soundscape on par with Dunkirk, another Hans Zimmer scored movie. And at first, this video is going to be a pretty straightforward review of it, gushing about the style, Chalamet's career best performance, Austin Butler's villain, all that good stuff. But the more I thought about it, the more I felt that I wanted to put Dune Part 2 into the larger context of the blockbuster movie landscape as a whole, and ask this simple question: why don't most big budget films look anything like this? But before I fully jump into
That's
it,
a good question, by the way.
Were you a fan? Were you not?
I'm a huge fan.
A world called Dune.
Long live the
Yeah.
fighters!
I tried to watch it recently and it's kind of hard. The
So
old
the
one, I
reported
mean.
budget for Dune Part 2 is $190 million. Now let me be clear, that is a lot of money. This was not a Godzilla -1 situation where I'm blown away by what they did with relatively so little. It's just not a small budget.
I wanted to
far
see
from
it, but we missed it in the
Thor:
cinema.
Love and Thunder's budget was a reported $250 million. The Flash's around 200 to 220. Those may not be perfect comparisons, and being in production during the pandemic helped inflate those numbers higher than they would have otherwise been, I'm sure. I'm not overly concerned with the exact amount anyway. I just want to know, where is that money on the screen? Dune Part 2 feels like a massive blockbuster, but I don't feel like that description does justice to what I'm really talking about here. It has the scale and visuals of what it felt like the future of cinema would look like, building off the groundwork laid by things like the Lord of the Rings movies or Gore Verbinski's pirate films, where computer-generated imagery, to put it in the most broad terms, is used to supplement and enhance the filmmaking craft on display and not be a substitute for it. I think there have been times on this channel where my criticisms of a movie's visual effects have caused me to come off like I just want everything to be practical, leading some people to think I don't respect modern VFX artists or something. And that's just not the case. VFX artists often achieve amazing things and are some of the most overworked and underappreciated people in the film industry. My point is not that they shouldn't have a place in modern blockbusters. They're pretty essential. It's that much of the
I can't wait
time,
for
it
the
feels
second
like
part
the
of that movie
dumped
too,
the
of Mission
responsibility
Impossible.
of the film
I
having
totally
any
forgot about
unique
it.
vision onto them, while handing them the most basic coverage and shot compositions possible. Now, I don't want to keep picking on the MCU exclusively, but Ant-Man 3, despite having a few fun creative sequences, often feels shot like a single-camera sitcom like New Girl or something. Then a VFX team is asked to
Love
fill
New
in the
Girl.
shot with an entire world that actually makes it feel like the big-budget movie it is. And, you know, nothing against New Girl, a show I quite
There you
like,
go.
but I don't think this
okay.
is what we should settle for when it comes to some of the most expensive movies ever
Well,
made.
he's
Director
right
Denis
in that.
Villeneuve didn't
That's
just
true.
put his actors down in front of a green or blue screen or the volume and make sure he got as many options for later as possible. That probably has its uses, but one of the biggest joys of both these Dune films is their large practical sets, the detail and care that obviously went into them. I know some people really criticize Villeneuve's specific artistic sensibilities,
What?
which some have
Who?
derisively called the Apple Store aesthetic in the past, and to a degree, I can understand that. But I really respect how much importance he places on practical sets, costumes, and prop design. They do a lot
That's
of
all
the heavy
important.
lifting that VFX
Yes.
artists are then able to expertly build upon. It feels like going back to an older way of movie making that has fallen out of fashion now with movies of this scale. Films like Jurassic Park, Sure, not all those VFX have aged well, but a lot of it has, precisely because Spielberg had to be picky about when to rely on them. But maybe even more important is the simple fact that Villeneuve composes his images with what seems to be a clear vision in mind from the very start. And I'm not saying that most blockbuster directors don't want to do that, I'm sure they do. But with the amount of control over the edit that studios tend to want these days, combined with how often extensive reshoots are done, it often feels like there isn't a real vision behind a lot of these films. Just editors and VFX artists desperately trying to stitch together a coherent enough movie to please the studios. And just to head off any possible comments on this front, no, I don't think every blockbuster director should be trying to emulate Villeneuve. That's not what this video is about. His film's visual style, pacing, and sense of sound design are very much his own, and I understand that they don't appeal to everyone. But that ability to be distinct is something I desperately wish more blockbusters would allow for. I can tell you what his movies look and feel like, and I could tell you the same for James Cameron, Chris Nolan, Jordan Peele, and many others working on large-scale productions. But it feels like younger filmmakers just often aren't allowed the latitude to establish a visual style on these bigger projects like they maybe were in the past. And I think that's a problem. I understand every studio is terrified of flops, especially on this scale. But the fact is, Hollywood is producing a lot of them right now. We're in an increasingly uncertain era when it comes to the box office. Franchises and concepts that were once assumed to be surefire hits in 2019 are no longer the risk-free propositions they once were. Some very expensive movies are just going to crash and burn. Many already have. So if that's the case, why not allow the directors to just do big, bold, unique things? Instead of studio noting these movies to death, let these artists utilize the large budgets given to them to actually get what they want to see up on that screen, shot in precisely the way they want it to be seen. Sure, you're not going to get Dune Part 2 every time. You're going to have some very embarrassing failures. But at least those failures may have a unique identity of their own. They won't immediately fade into the background and have almost no one passionate about them. Like, I don't know, Jungle Cruise or something. Sorry to Jungle Cruise, I don't mean to pick on it, but two giant movie stars in a boat being chased down by Jesse Plemons should just never have been allowed to be this dull. These boring, squeaky clean house styles have to go. They've outlived their sell-by date, and it's clear that audiences are craving something that feels new and different.
I mean, that was a film movie, but I actually forgot I've seen it.
Dune films, I hope mark a sea change in how studios think about
but the Dune is a movie,
projects.
both parts. It's just...
Probably.
I watched it Dune Part 1 3 times or 4 already. It's a long movie, so obviously you're gonna have to have time.
Volume technology even. And I really hope that those making big decisions at the studios realize how much less successful that version of Dune would be. Yes, these movies are based on a beloved novel, but it's combining that story with Villeneuve's sense of style and aesthetics that turned Part 2 into a cinema event. As TV show budgets have also bloated,
there you go, Shogun. It's absolutely brilliant show.
How expensive something can appear on television versus an actual big budget movie kind of shrinks. It's harder for these movies to stand out as events when many of them aren't even as visually interesting or well designed as, say, Shogun on FX. Standing out from the crowd with a distinct, interesting visual style will be more important than ever if you want your movie's box office returns to look more like Dune and less like Madame Web. So yeah, I generally try to avoid sounding too grandiose, but to me, Dune Part 2 is a vision of something. A vision of what a better blockbuster landscape can and should look like, where VFX artists aren't asked to carry the weight of the spectacle entirely on their shoulders, but are instead one important part of a team working towards a shared vision together. Not the band-aid that covers up uninspired and tepid filmmaking, but adding something that deserves their care and attention in the first place. I've been hit or miss on Villeneuve in the past, I'll admit, but with Dune and Dune Part 2, I think he's pulled off something spectacular. Something that's hopefully helping to push large-scale genre movies kicking and screaming into a new era. For better or worse, probably better, none of us are going to be drinking any mystical blue Gatorade that gives us access to unbelievable knowledge beyond our understanding. We'll have to, study. Thankfully, Brilliant has made that process more fun and less of a pain than ever before. Brilliant lets you tackle math, science, and computer science concepts in a highly interactive way. There's thousands of lessons, with new ones being added constantly, and spending just 30 minutes a day or so on them is both fun and builds our skills without any of the stress that you might remember associating with these topics. If you want to jump into the world of coding, try Thinking in Code, Creative Coding Programming with Python. This lets you start building programs on day one with a built-in drag and drop editor. From that framework, you'll learn essential coding elements from loops and variables to nesting and conditionals, building a strong foundation in writing great programs. To try everything Brilliant has to offer for free for a full 30 days, visit brilliant.org/midnight or click on the link in the description. You'll also get 20% off an annual premium subscription. That's brilliant.org/midnight.
Okay, midnight.
Here's a special
Oh wait, there's something else?
for the fellas and girls who have not already joined Captain Midnight's new 1940 Flight Patrol. You'd better hurry up and join at once, because there's a big adventure ahead. The thing to do now is to get started, because we're going to have not only barrels of fun, but loads of free gifts and prizes.
Okay, that was funny. What can I add? Nothing, because I absolutely agree with every word he said. Although now I'm kind of thinking, did he say that he thinks that the Shogun is a visual thing? Because I really like Shogun. I really like it. Although I would add it that in regards of Shogun, I would, because I read it's a multilingual show, and honestly, so far we just heard, well, Japanese obviously, English, despite the fact that they speak Portuguese with each other, isn't it? I mean, the translator and what's his name? Anjin. And and then there was Latin as well. So I guess you can count it as a multilingual. The Latin is mostly for the prayers, isn't it? Anyway, back to the Dune. So I already mentioned that before because I think I made some kind of reaction. Honestly, guys, I'm making so many reactions recently now, like every day. Every 7 days a week, it kind of piles up to quite a lot of videos. So I don't remember everything that I reacted to, but if it comes about Dune, the Denis Villeneuve movies, I think are masterpieces in my opinion. I absolutely loved the first one. I came out in awe for it. I absolutely enjoy it like a movie that I haven't enjoyed in a really long time. I can't remember what could I say that I've enjoyed so much before. And weirdly enough, the one thing that comes to my mind that I definitely remember that was in kind of similar state of mind, it was Endgame. But Endgame was a build-up for 10 years to it. So everyone was expecting something special. And sorry, not Endgame. Spider-Man No Way Home. Yeah, because all of those rumors, the Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire coming in as well, that was really good. So, I really, really enjoyed that. And I have to say that the Dune, after reading the first book, starting on the second one, I can't finish it. It's just too hard. It's just kind of out there. The first one was quite difficult for me to read as well. There's a lot of kind of trans stuff. I'm not into it, so it was kind of hard, but I did read the first one. In the first movie, in the second movie, it's basically the first book, so I kind of know where we are at it. And I really, really enjoyed it. Seriously, I probably will be one of those two movies gonna be some of those movies that I can watch over and over again, just like Fifth Element or what else can I watch over and over again? There's always some movies, isn't there, that you can't come up with the title, but Serenity, there you go. Serenity is one of those movies. It's not a brilliant movie, but I really like it, and I enjoy watching it. So yeah, I do agree with Captain Midnight about all that it is. The movies with that amount of money given to it should be made that way, in the way that basically are right mix of practical and special effects, because this is something that we really I think looks well. And I mean, I know there's new technologies, like let's say Mandalorian was shot in that new, the screens all over and stuff like that, and it looks really real as well. But I think the fact that they kind of went to like all those desert, and they were filming there, and they had all those scopes of the thing. Like, that's actually amazing. Okay, did you watch Dune Part 2, and did you enjoy it? Because you know my feelings about it. I actually enjoyed it. I would love to watch it again, but well, again, long movie, not enough time in the life. So gonna watch it at home when the game comes to one of the streaming services, because we have plenty of those too. Okay, thank you very much for watching, and I see you tomorrow. Bye.